Hello sailors, this is the Dodgy Kebab and you're watching a video about the 0.5 Alpha World of Warcraft client. Now, I didn't plan to make this video, but my last video on the 0.8 client broke my channel's record for views in the first week. So clearly it's something the viewers are interested in, and as I'm such a man of the people, Dodgy Kebab gives you what you want. Don't worry, I've not gone angry jar on you. The Warmain TBC server review is still well underway, as I have over an hour worth of footage for my 1 to 50 leveling journey so far. Anyway, so this is the 0.53 Alpha client from way back in December the 11th, 2003. Anyway, getting into the game for the first time, and you'll notice that this is not widescreen. In fact, the game at this point did not natively support widescreen resolutions at all. Its maximum resolution was 1600 by 1200. If you look at the game UI, you'll spot that talents and crafts have a counter at the bottom that shows how many talent points that you can put into them. That's because back then Warcraft used a more standard RP talent system where you get points as you level and you decide if you want to put them into weapon skills or attributes like strength or spirit or even craft professions. When I hover the mouse cursor over a mob, you'll notice that it uses the old mouse icon sets that were still in place up to at least the 0.8 client. While we are spawning mobs in, take a look at some of these old NPC models which are still lurking in the game's data. And we can't talk about old models without bringing up these horrific troll models. I mean, look at the state of that female model. Thank fuck Blizzard changed them. The last thing I found while playing with these character models was an old NPC sound. They must have paid Sean Connery a fair bit of money to voice these lines, so it's a shame they were not used in the final game.
Over here. Over here.
So now let's do some exploring. We start off in good old Stormwind. Most of this is the same, although some buildings are unfinished on the inside, but most are complete. The auction house is not here at all, and the Stormwind Bank has a different style of entrance. Here, you have this little turn before you get in. If you look at the signposts, you'll notice that they have no directions to anywhere on them. Also, something that many players forget that actually used to exist in the alpha and beta pre-release versions is the console. That's this drop-down text box where you can input certain commands. Here I'm going to use it to speed up my movement. The deep run tram is not in this version as it's not been built, but obviously you can tell that they were planning to by the texture on this wall. In this version it's very easy to get stuck on little steps and things, as it wasn't until patch 0.8 that this was fixed. Although I wonder if this was some sort of server side fix, as I still see this problem on some private servers from time to time. Anyway, onwards to the Cathedral District. And there are market stalls here, but these were removed before release. Probably because they didn't really get used much anyway, and having them in the Holy District doesn't really look right. Onward to the Slaughtered Lamb, although here it's called the Warlock Tavern. Although the actual bar area looks the same, once you get down to the lower sections, the layout is the same, but the lighting makes it look very different. When you look side by side with the vanilla release, you can see how much of an effect that different lighting and shaders can have. Now we'll take a trip over to Goldshire. Yes, Goldshire, not Goldshire. If you say Goldshire, you have been saying it wrong, and now I can prove it. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen to this passage from Warcraft 1, Orcs and Humans.
The complete and utter demolition of the twin cities, Goldshire and Moonbrook. Goldshire.
So yes, anyway, Goldshire is pretty much the same here in the alpha version, but we have a meeting stone in the field. For what reason? I'm not really sure, but it's not alone either. There's one in Northshire Valley, as well as another in Lakeshire. Moving north of Redridge, and we go into the Burning Steps, and the human outpost is not here yet, but there is an orc building at the bottom. Further along, and Black Rock Mountain is not finished either. The path into the mountain is not yet complete, and you can actually see through the mountain at some angles. Just around the corner from Black Rock, and the Altar of Storms doesn't actually have any textures on yet, so it looks a bit weird. Now using the console, we can use teleport commands. First of all, I teleported over to the Ironforge airstrip, and you can see planes all around, and a bit further on there is this building that has the entrance blocked, but you can glitch the camera to see that more has been done. Plus you can say the same about this tunnel, which has also been blocked, but clearly is designed to lead somewhere once it's done. Although, as we know, the area was never finished and was blocked off from the players. I can also use it to teleport inside of the Dalaran shield. But if you've ever seen inside of this before, you'll know it's about as disappointing as a TBC server launch. So instead, let's go to the scum capital city, Orgrimmar. Now, I play a glorious alliance, so I don't really know this place that well. But I do know that this is a different layout to what we know. I know that this section, as you go towards Ragefire Chasm, is constructed differently here. Next, we have player housing. Now, I've heard that Blizzard were experimenting with this idea during this part of development, but honestly, I don't think they really looked into it that much. I mean, I don't think these template houses dotted along this basic landscape resembles much of an experiment. I know they did talk about it, but I don't really think they got very far with the idea and made no real progress. More teleporting now, and we're in Tanaris, just near where Gadgetzone should be. This clearly has not been finished. Although the PvP cage is here, the rest is just copy-paste buildings from Booty Bay. This really shows how early this client really was. The Ungoro crater, although in a more finished state, also is still not very complete at this point. While we're heading this way, Silithus still looks like it needs more work, but what is curious about this is Anchorage is actually joined to this zone. This, I believe, is because it was first designed to be a whole city that was its own zone. One crappy thing though, I found it very easy to get stuck. This is Darnassus, and Elune is looking a bit dark here, but the biggest surprise I found is that there's actually a normal flight point here in the city rather than in the outside village. I imagine they changed the flight point because flying down from this high tree that the city's located in probably added quite a few extra minutes to the travel time in and out of Darnassus. Let's skip over to Theramore now, and like we saw earlier, a slight change in colours and lighting can really alter how a location looks. For me, the thing that stands out the most is the path. The brown gaps between the slabs really give a different effect to what we're used to. Another thing I can do with this emulator is swap out the main character model with another one, as you can see here, with this super duper pink guy. Let's use him to run into Winter Spring, which is nowhere near ready. It's just mainly a plain green flat plane. But interestingly, it has easy access to Hyjal, as you can see here. Hyjal has had a small amount of work done on it at this point, but it's not before long when you see the dev team still had a lot of work to do left on the zone. Now we have Undercity, and as with Orgrimmar, I really don't know the layout of this place very well, but I'm told it's quite different in this version. What I will say is that it does look pretty cool here, and it would almost be worth rolling an undead just to have a proper look around, although I do find the layout a little bit confusing. This is the Dark Portal in the Blasted Lands, which looks a lot bigger than it does in the release version. However, the brown colour palette used looks a bit shit, and I'm glad they changed it. Elsewhere in this zone, the human town is also different and uses one of the template models, but with an extra few buildings thrown in. Finally, we have Karazhan, and here is the entrance, but it's worth noting that there is no way to normally get here in this client, as the Karazhan castle floats in the sky, so I've used teleport codes to get here. The inside has not been coloured at all, and it makes getting around inside actually quite hard. If we use the terminal velocity code, we can view the outside of the castle, and you'll notice that it looks totally different to what we're used to. Well, that's it for this video. My voice is almost destroyed. I hope you've enjoyed this little run through the 0.5 alpha client, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.
The complete and utter demolition of the Twin Cities, Goldshire and Moonbrook. Goldshire, 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 Goldshire.